Howdy.
Hey Jason, how are you?
Hey, hey guys, it's Cash. I'm actually in the car, so forgive me for not having my video on.
Okay.
No problem.
Sound really clear for being in a car.
That's good. It's the first time I always get on Zoom from the computer. It's the first time I used the app. I figured I would give that a try since I'm running a couple minutes late.
Cool.
Yeah, same thing. I've never had to use like the app on a go. I've seen other people use it, but yeah, typically just at the computer.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
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 Hey, Matt, I still have that screen ready for you.
Yes, I need to talk to you about that because I think we're gonna try to use that. So awesome that you you had that, and be excited to come over and pick that up from you.
Yay. Jason, it's so good to see you. Hi, Kendra, with your hair.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, hi.
Faster than as late as he thought he was going to be.
I'm actually in the car, so I hopped on via the app. So
Yeah.
forgive me for not
You.
having my camera on. I think that might be illegal.
Oh,
I
is
think
it?
you're all good. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's nice to know. I didn't know that it was.
You're good.
All right, so I think we've got everybody here, so we can go ahead and get the meeting started.
Yes, I make it 6:31. Let's come to order. And our first agenda item is approving the minutes from the,
Hold on, I gotta do roll call.
oh, all right, roll call.
Roll call.
Would you
Chair
like to
Ellswick.
do that, Eric?
Yeah, I can do that. Chair Ellswick,
Here.
Vice Chair O'Brien. Lauren Cooper,
Here.
CJ Cullinan,
Here.
Matt Crabtree,
Here.
Helene Federici,
Here.
Cash Parker.
Here.
Okay. Dave Cuesta is absent, but he's got city council tonight, so I wasn't really expecting him. So other members present is Kendra Carberry, the attorney, and Eric Sampson, planning staff.
Great.
So, all right.
Very well, all right. Now we can proceed to approving the minutes from the last meeting. I didn't have any changes to it. The only resolution we made was to have this meeting. I'll move that we approve
I'll second.
Thank you. If there's anyone not in favor, say so. Otherwise, let's assume we're unanimous.
I'll abstain since I was not at the meeting.
Oh, all right. Even though
All
we
right,
talked
so I have
about it,
unanimous with
Jason.
Jason abstaining.
Yeah. All right, and on to the subject of this meeting, which is preparing for our presentation to the city council. The landmark protection language is one of the things, but the other thing we wanted to present was our draft landmark application and the instructions for that. We also actually worked on a process for the application, but we haven't finalized that, but that's pretty much covered in the changes to 16.611, so it may not be necessary. Discussion, anyone?
Did you want, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do this. Did you want me to kind of discuss my thoughts on the changes that I made to 16.611? Or how, I guess I'm just asking what's the best way to proceed here?
Yes, please. And I've been through it, and I have noted a couple of questions or comments. I'm not sure whether I did want to ask Jason. I assume you had some input in, or you spoke with Kendra in explaining this. That was our resolution to ask you.
Yeah, so that was, I guess, last week, Eric, Kendra, and I met briefly to just kind of go over some stuff. So touch base on some things, and then Kendra took it from there. So yeah, it sounds useful to kind of go over, kind of what you saw in your comments and revisions.
So Kendra first?
Maybe I'll just start with a brief overview. So I think overall, I think this looks great. My changes were mostly to make it consistent. So trying to limit the number of terms that we were using, such as, designating something as a landmark and using terms like certificate consistently, so that we were very clear, certificate of appropriateness. So we were very clear what we were talking about each time. I was not trying to go through it with a fine tooth comb, but more to focus on being consistent with the terms. And then the other sort of major thing that I had heard again from the mayor is that we had to be very clear that these were recommendations, that most of these are recommendations that would be then decided by the council. So, and I tried to put that in here. Anyway, so I wouldn't say this was a final. The other thing is I do think, and I think I said this in one of my emails, this kind of deserves perhaps a chapter or something more than one section in the code. It's very, very difficult. Just in my experience, it's very difficult to follow something like this when it's one section with 28 subsections. It would be much easier if it was its own, in my experience, its own chapter or its own article, or however it works best in your code. Or we take a lot of it out of the code, and we put the criteria and other things in some sort of a guide, a handbook, policy, something like that. So I'm just throwing those thoughts out there for you guys to discuss this with the council. I don't want you to, just a discussion. And Jason, you and I had a brief back and forth on this. Some of my clients put the criteria honestly in a separate guidebook, handbook, whatever you want to call it. So they're not in the code. I know you had some concerns about enforceability, and I understand that. But anyway, I'm just giving you my overall thoughts to start. I don't know that we need to focus on small edits that I made. I'm not sure that I'm not trying to change any of the substance except for the ones I'm talking to you about right now. And then the other one is I highlighted an area where I do think we need to discuss that, or you need perhaps to discuss that with council. That's the exemption process. I wasn't quite clear on it, and I do think we need more clarity there, and we want to make sure that council is okay with you all giving exemptions without council input. I think that's one area where the council may say, yes, you all can give all the exemptions you want. We don't need to see those because exemptions are definitely more permissive than the alternative, which is a designation. So anyway, I've talked too much already, but that's what I just wanted to give you that heads up.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I didn't get the chance to look at it real close before this, but yeah, from what I could tell, it's what you said, just kind of more, because again, some of, as I freely admit, some of it was, we had something prepared and I kind of cut and paste from that template language. So I definitely see where there's some, terms that may not be consistent, and, it also kind of stuff like perhaps didn't really notice before, but some stuff kind of maybe repeated things that didn't need to be there. So I saw where you kind of deleted sections, and then right below is basically the same thing. So
Right.
yeah, that all makes sense. And then with exemptions, those kind of are tied to the certificate of appropriateness, and that's something. Yeah, I guess if there's maybe some guidance on how we can fill those out more, but that may be something too that those looking at economic those hardship requirements are can be found elsewhere. So I'm sure we could kind of look there. But same thing if you have some kind of advice to provide clarity to them. But same thing overall. I guess overall, I think this was a very helpful review and getting us to what we want.
So Kendra or Jason, have either of you guys seen this as a separate article or chapter or guidebook? Guidelines, I guess might be the word.
I've seen it as all of the above, as a separate guidebook. I've seen it as a master plan. I've seen it as a separate chapter. My only recommendation, and again, perhaps talk to council about this, because this is all something this is less substance, right? But more procedure, which is what's the best way for the public to be able to use this. That's my concern is, right? I'm just telling you right now, to go to 17 different subsections is really difficult to find. So, and that's nothing on you guys. That's just the way that it was already in the code. But I might suggest that we fix that while we're fixing things. That would be
Now, when we fix it for because obviously we want to show the council what would look good as a finished product.
Sure.
So.
And I'm happy to go ahead and do a separate. So I think based on what Jason was saying, I think perhaps council would want to see it more in the code rather than in a guidebook. Jason, maybe you tell me if I'm wrong on that, but so that they can see it out there, it's codified, everyone can understand it. Is that what you would recommend?
Yeah, I guess for myself, that's what I'd recommend. You bring up a good point. Maybe it's not the most clear or useful, but just kind of providing us that kind of clear grounds to stand on. And I don't know, I guess maybe we could look forward to future projects providing more guidance for how people can, in layman's terms or something, kind of how they can understand and use this stuff. So
But I think, oh, sorry, but I think what we're talking about, Jason, is the idea of making, how do we want to present to the council right now? What you and Kendra have and Eric have seen and created, or do we want to make it a separate chapter and present that?
Can I jump in here real fast? I don't want to take it away from Jason, but I think on how this gets, I don't know if the right terminology is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kendra, but codified, once this actually gets put into the England Municipal Code, there's probably going to be some interesting cutting and pasting and putting in different places, and that's not something that I don't think we necessarily have to worry about. The bulk of it here and the wording is what we'll be recommending. We might bring it up that maybe this deserves its own chapter, and because right now, Kendra, we're crammed into 16, which covers a lot of other things.
I agree, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. We don't necessarily agree that it should be in 16, by the way. It's not usually in the zoning chapter. Just throwing that out there. I know you all have a unified development code, which have become really popular, but for lawyers, we like to separate zoning and other things. And this is not necessarily, I mean, there's some zoning, but not necessarily. So I don't know. I think that you're right. I'm not sure we have to go to, I love the idea of going to council with a finished product. I think that's great. But I'm not sure in this case that we're there yet, because I think we need to maybe flesh out some of the substance. I guess what I'm saying is maybe y'all should focus on the substance of this and then let the lawyers and the codifiers figure out the location later.
Yeah. CJ, what's your concern? What was your thought or concern with not? I guess with not having it in its own section, or having it in its own section. What were your concerns with that?
I guess I was thinking, number one, it's more transparent. It's easier to see as a citizen of Inglewood. Number two, it doesn't get lost, where if you cut and paste and sometimes you lose 20% of something because someone just didn't notice it. Now, granted, we have lawyers and codifiers to do this, which I didn't know we did have codifiers, but nonetheless, that idea of getting something lost in the stew.
Yeah.
And that actually is what it has been all along. I mean, what's in the 16 right now was passed in 2004, before there even was a Historic Preservation Commission, and it's very vague. It doesn't really say what, I mean, we've invented ourselves over the years there, and it doesn't have any teeth to it. So that was our original idea in rewriting the thing, is do we actually have powers and duties? It says so in the, so.
And I think this does a great job of making that much clearer as to what the duties are and what the criteria. I think that's all of the substance, I think, is great. So my only concern was having people being able to find it and apply it in an easier way than it is right now. But again, the way that your code is structured, it's not so easy. So
yeah. So CJ.
So anyway, and that. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Kendra. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that's a decision we need. Maybe now you just focus on the substance and talk to council about the substance of what you want to do. And I'm here to help you. Once you get that feedback, perhaps we tell council, okay, we have your feedback on the substance. Let us put it into a final product now, once we know what council's preferences. I could go either way. I mean, we can pretty this up and make it perfect, and I can make a separate chapter and we can do all of that now. But it may be a better use of everyone's time to talk to the council during the study session or the combined session first, and make sure that you're all on the same page.
Understood.
Yeah, and we can always talk about the location of the HPC when we're going through our Title 16 code rewrite. So that would be a good
I
opportunity.
didn't know you were doing that. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's going on
Okay.
this year. So
Oh.
we'll be able to look at that in relatively near future and see where we want to have that in Title 16 somewhere or somewhere else in the code.
Okay.
But we should have that opportunity to talk about that some more.
So
And
maybe,
of
so
course,
maybe then
it,
I'm
also
jumping.
means that our modifications, if they stay in 16, are not going to be official for a year. While
Right, until the new Title 16 language is adopted.
yeah,
Okay.
If it stays in Title 16.
In that case, maybe we just present them with the substance and do it right where it is right now, and then let whoever's working on the Title 16 rewrite deal with it then. I don't want to jump that gun either. I didn't realize you guys were doing a whole Title 16 rewrite, so.
yeah.
If you're doing that rewrite already, somebody's job is going to be to make things easier to find. So maybe they can deal with it. So we just put all the substance we want, we put it in, and then they figure out how to make it more easily readable and easy to find.
I'm hearing kind of the more efficient route right now is to just present them with this, but maybe Melinda, we start putting bullet points together as the things of recommendations with this. Like there's a lot of content with this, a lot of specifics. We don't want this to get lost within different subsections and separated. We'd like to have this as one, so possibly recommend this becoming its own chapter. So if we I think actually in preparation for our meeting, open to suggestions on this, but normally write out bullet points for speaking topics and then the associated folks can chime in as needed.
What we basically want to do is outline our presentation and maybe put together a PowerPoint so they can look at that. And I suppose we will have to provide them a copy of our draft. So they can look at that.
At the point, Kendra, I mean, forgive me, but I realize your time is very valuable and that you have been here probably in Inglewood since 7 this morning. What more do you need to be involved with us at this point?
That's really a question for you all. I'm happy. So if you all are happy with my changes so far, we could take those and then prepare a red line of this versus what's currently in the code. So, because the council, right, they're not going to necessarily want to see your whole iterative process of how you got here, but they're going to want to see the red line versus the current code, right? So that's one thing I can certainly prepare. And then, like I said, that one area where I highlighted, I think we need to understand from the council how much authority they want to give you on exemptions. I think exemptions is the one area, because you're giving, again, I think what I heard from the mayor is that the council was concerned about you having too much authority to designate. So, because designation, as you know, restricts a property, right? So the idea is you could have less, I'm not saying less authority, but you're going to recommend designations, but as far as exemptions, that you can actually just approve them, because that's well within, your ability to do so. And so I think that's a big discussion you should have with the council is, can you all give exemptions without council approval, even though when you go to designations, you get council approval? That's one area I would suggest that you focus on to make sure that you understand what council wants there. Other than that, this is all very, this is all very good stuff that most communities use already. So I don't think there's anything that should surprise the council. I think you just need to sort of introduce it to them and say, this is what we want to do. We want to recommend districts. We want to recommend properties. We want to have property owners nominate things for landmarks. We want to have criteria for that nomination. And I think what you also want to stress to the council is that you do all the hard work here, right? You determine whether the criteria have been met, and then you make a recommendation, so that makes it easier for council, right? You're looking into all the details so that the council doesn't have to spend as much time doing it. That would be how I would focus the presentation to council, is that you're the ones with the expertise, and you want to use that expertise to make a recommendation.
And we need to say that.
Yes, exactly. Because I think council would be happy to let you all, to delegate that kind of detail-oriented review to you, rather than them having to do it.
I mean, those are all really good points, and there's actually a lot of stuff that we should pull out of that to relay to council. One of which being is that a lot of this language, and this probably could be something that Jason could present, as he's a resident expert on this, but a lot of this language exists in other communities already. So this isn't reinventing the wheel. This is kind of an accepted methodology, and that'd be a good point to certainly bring up.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if do we want to, are we leaving this to Jason since he's been running point on this? Do we want to break it up amongst different people? Because we have 15 minutes with council. Is that right, Eric?
So actually, that was something I was going to bring up tonight, or something that you guys were to discuss, is how long the presentation you think is going to be. If you think it's going to be 20 minutes to adequately cover stuff, I think we can do that. I don't think we should probably go much over 25 minutes would probably be okay. And then we would have the rest of the time for discussion. So yeah, just kind of as we're walking through stuff tonight, if you kind of get an idea, a time frame of what it's going to take to present this to council, yeah, then I can email over Jade, who kind of manages the time schedule on that stuff, and let her know what we're planning on for presentation and what we're planning on for discussion.
So the two presentations that Matt and I have done with the society as well as the commission, I think in both cases, we were so short on what we presented. Boom, boom, seriously, 5, maybe 8 minutes. And it was kind of like, okay, and then you could see them sitting there going, okay, so we have questions for you, but this is kind of new to us. And, you could see how things kind of got a slow start. But I would say we were pretty well done in 20 minutes with the questions. Now, that was the last 2 times. This run right now, we're trying to be more sophisticated in our discussion, more articulate about what we really want, which isn't a status quo in Inglewood. And so we need to maybe stuff a little more political savviness in our presentation. But in all reality, if we have a half hour including questions, I think that's going to be a lot of time, you guys.
Yeah, and I agree, CJ. With what you said there, if we can kind of condense this into just the facts and get to the point where council starts firing questions at us, our presentation will have a level of importance, obviously, but I think there'll probably be more benefit and importance in the questions and the back and forth conversation that's going to happen with council versus what we actually present to them.
Wasn't the option to combine the 2 times talked about last meeting? I thought I remember the idea of like combining the times was discussed last meeting. Where, I'm sorry, I thought that was something that was proposed, where it was like sort of to combine it together and then be able to transition to questions whenever and not have to like have it planned out.
Combine what together?
The presentation time and the discussion time.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I thought they were like, so we're not like planning the presentation time exactly and then the discussion, like they were combined. I'm sorry, I thought that was the plan.
Oh, like we would take questions in the middle of the presentation.
I thought that was sort of put out there, and it would be helpful too to break it up, maybe just as a strategy to present a section and then get some feedback, and then another section and get feedback, and then ultimately plan more time, because I think it's easier to end early than it would be to like run out of time.
So I think because everything's virtual right now, council really likes to see presentation questions. So it just helps with the flow of the virtual meetings right now. That's why they're asking me to relay to them how much time the presentation is going to take. So while it might not be the ideal format, I think that's what we need to work with for this.
And I've noticed a lot of times council doesn't really know what question to ask anyway.
Right.
That you do the presentation and they say, oh, fine, thanks, goodbye, and that was it. And you're not even sure that there was any impact from your presentation.
Jason, when you've seen this with other communities, how long has the presentation lasted to their city councils? Or county commissions or whatever?
Well, I've never seen something like this presented to the council, but I would say since they'll have the materials for review, and if we're just kind of we could probably slice this any way to fit a certain time period. So I don't think that I guess I don't have too many thoughts on it, but it seems like I don't know, 15 minutes or something, you can kind of cover the stuff and get to questions, but I think it could really be sliced however we want for certain time lengths.
And one suggestion again is that you focus on the substance and let the council know that whatever you do with the code, it'll have to come back to them for approval. So they don't need to wordsmith individual sections right now. They just, if everybody focuses on the bigger picture, because this ordinance will have to come back to them to go into the code to begin with. This is really not that time. So whatever feedback they give, we can take back and then put that into the draft. So you don't have to talk about, should we use this tense or that tense? And I don't know how your council is. Some of my councils like to wordsmith a lot, but if you can get them away from that and more on the bigger picture, that will be helpful.
Start it out that way. We can say, we want you to concentrate on the substance we're providing, knowing that the wordsmiths will come later. I mean, we can say that, snap. Jason, do you feel comfortable creating a bullet point from the different things that you've gone through already, and maybe just email us all through Eric, and we can wordsmith our presentation through you?
Yeah, I can pull stuff together, and so then at the very least we have a starting thing, and then input from the rest of folks.
Because there's basically about 6 areas, isn't there? Or am I oversimplifying?
No, I think I don't even know if I don't know if there are that many. I think
Good.
It's good to simplify, I think.
So that idea, whatever, forgive me. So let's go with 4 or 5 areas. This one PowerPoint will say boom, boom, boom. This one PowerPoint will say boom, boom, boom. And do you feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have more, what is it, Helena, more than 6 per screen? Is that what's suggested?
Yeah, I don't think there's like a limit to how, like, you just don't want to crowd the slide. I don't know that that's like a formula.
You don't
Yeah.
want 12. I know when on a national basis, they told us no more than 7 lines.
I mean, there's like a handful of empirically tested rules for multimedia design. That's not one of them. That doesn't mean it's not good design. I just can't speak to its effectiveness based on empirical testing. But definitely no extraneous information and not too busy, clean and simple.
It doesn't even need nouns and verbs, whatever.
Well, it might need some nouns and verbs. There's no empirical testing that says nouns and verbs are distracting in multimedia presentation. But no pictures of cats hanging from historically significant landmarks. That is known not to enhance learning.
All right, Jason.
Although it wouldn't hurt if we probably snuck in a picture of some of our landmarks as part of the thing, you know, like the bank, the post office, the
Garrett House.
Or the Holberg estate that we just lost over the weekend. That was torn down. Yeah, it was just torn down on Saturday.
Didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
Did we know about that in advance? No.
No. I found out from Doug. He was driving by and saw a fence around it. And literally 3 days later, the excavator showed up.
What's the significance of that property? I'm sorry, I don't know it.
So the Holberg estate was owned by the original family that maintained and started the Carnation greenhouses over on the off of Huron on the opposite side. I'm trying to get my bearings here. Opposite side. So that'd be the
West
south side of Hampton. Is that right? I'm trying to get my bearings.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, where the Carnation, because we were the Carnation capital of, I guess, the United States, and the Holbergs were responsible for the Carnation growing. Fortunately, beautiful home, brick home, very sound, very structurally sound, great condition, beautiful plaster work, built 1917. It was torn down on, they started on Friday and they finished on Saturday.
See, that's what, is that in there, Melinda? Was that idea that all that research we had done about, just tell us when you're going to take something down so we can at least picture, archive it, you know?
We, the Historic Society,
and
sorry, go ahead, Melinda. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, that was our wish. And right now we're just trying to say, if we've designated it as a landmark, you can't do anything to it without letting us know.
No, but we
Of
weren't
course, the
asking
thing
even
is, we
that.
haven't, because our code isn't finished, we haven't officially designated anything.
No, but it didn't only have to do with designation, right, Jason? Didn't we also just want to be notified what's going to be torn down so we could run over there? And isn't there a part in there on that?
Well, there's reviewing permits for alterations and stuff. That's what the whole certificate of appropriateness is.
Right.
That's what that whole section is. So, yeah, we'd have the opportunity to comment on if they're, you know, removing important character defining features or something like that. That's where we have a place to comment, is for those permits on, you know, permits on locally landmarked properties.
But specifically for properties that were registered. That,
Yeah,
and
but I'm saying not for properties that were registered, just the idea of telling us.
Yeah, well,
That-
and
So we could have run
Well-
over with our cameras and taken pictures.
so CJ,
There-
to that point real fast, just to kind of settle things down, we were able to get video of the inside and photographs of the inside before it was torn down with that particular case. But there are other cases that we weren't given that opportunity, obviously.
And I don't want to be a naysayer here, but if it's not registered, there's not, I mean, that's kind of the first step in us being able to do anything, right? So, I mean, I think it's great to have the ability to take photos before things are torn down, but we would have to know about them. They would have to at least be registered some way with us. So, you know, I think this is a good step. I'm not sure it can prevent people from knocking down things that have not been landmarked or registered or applied for or anything else without us going in. So
Sorry, guys, just
one thing I did like in the that shows in the modifications here is the changing the order of things. The city can't issue a permit until we've issued a certificate of appropriateness, which would include demolition and so forth. So for a landmark that we have designated, that's what the protections are about.
great.
So
sorry, guys, just real quick point of order. I got to step away just for about 2 minutes here. Do you mind if I mute and drop my video just for a minute?
all right.
Okay.
You can
So we're just
Take a
at the
break.
point of steps right now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if Jason helps us out by doing a draft of what would be the PowerPoint of these septic areas. And then what? do
Well,
we
and
want
before
design
we
first?
attach a copy of this, there were a couple of
Oh, thank
places.
you.
I mean, I just made notes that a lot of this is simplifying language or clarifying things, or just taking away redundancies. Cool, I'm okay with that. There were a couple of places that I think stuff that Alex put in somehow snuck in there, and I'm just saying, huh? That,
Go ahead, what areas
and
are those?
so
Yeah,
I would like to talk about those before we. It's in the section on appeal of denial of certificate of appropriateness,
Okay.
and there's like, okay, there's a within 45 days there's a public hearing, and then the notice of the council's consideration provided in accordance with sections and subsections that don't exist. So whole
Sorry, this is part of my problem with this ordinance, but can you just try to point me where you are so I can find it? It's really hard to find. I'm
It's
sorry.
section, it's section 6 on, it starts at the bottom of page 12 on to page 13.
Yeah.
How easy is it for you guys to screen share?
Oh, that would be awesome if you can do that. Because I only have 11 pages, so I guess I'm trying to.
And there's not page numbers on this, which is also
Right.
makes it difficult to navigate, but I'm looking at the PDF that's the agenda. So there's 15 total pages. That's why it's
Oh,
page
okay.
12. It's page 12 of 15 of the agenda.
Yeah.
Let me go to the agenda one. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was looking at my Word version because it was easier for me to follow. But
Yeah.
if someone can share the screen, that would be even easier. I don't know if that's possible.
I can work on that.
What you doing, Melinda?
I'm still looking for it here.
Oh, Melinda, do you want me to do it? Do you want me to share?
Have you got it?
I've got it pulled up, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because I actually printed the thing, so I didn't save a copy.
Okay, I see now. It was just a longer version. So okay, so page.
Did y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And there, that is the page.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And item C there is like, I don't know where that came from.
Notice of the city council's consideration. of
And the
appeal
city
of-
clerk shall perform the responsibilities of the secretary. What secretary is that?
Oh, okay.
Is that just
Yeah.
from this like stock language that this came from initially?
Yes.
I think, yeah, I was going to say that's easy to fix. There does have to be a notice of the appeal and the hearing on the appeal. And I don't know that we have to say the city clerk performs the functions of secretary. That doesn't, that can all come out. That I didn't take that out.
That was the, yeah. And
that
I
doesn't,
mean, the reference to the subsection is,
right.
yeah.
That can all come out.
Good.
Yeah,
just has
and
to
item E in that also, the city council shall apply the criteria.
Right.
Uh,
We have to get I did not do a full review of all the cross references in here. So just so
Yeah.
you know, but yes, we would have to get the cross references consistent. What they would have,
Yeah.
what the city council would have to apply is exactly the same criteria that you applied.
Okay,
So-
that's, yeah,
So we can just say that up front too in our presentation, is that some of those details haven't been worked out, but again, we're just looking at the substance of this.
I think that's a good idea.
Missing.
yeah.
Well, good catch on that other one, Melinda. What else? Anything else?
I see what you're saying in the highlighted section here, that it needs to be more specific. But I'm not sure. How
What
to
if,
make it that way.
one of the issues I pointed out here is that you seem to have, this seems to have two different types of hardship. One is economic and one seems to be something else. I don't know what the something else is. My recommendation is to limit it only to economic hardship. I'm not, because I think we haven't really fleshed out what that second type of hardship is. And I think we have a really good structure for determining economic hardship, but I'm just not sure where it said, originally it said undue, but I don't know what that means. I changed it to be other, but I'm not quite sure what other there could be other than economic. So, I mean, I think most hardship would come back to economics anyway. So I think you probably have it covered.
Yeah,
Maybe the time and effort of even going through the steps to do this, that they don't have the sophistication to follow through on it.
well, and that's there, if they already have a listed property. Then it's the only, and like the health and safety thing, the only thing I could think of is that somebody with a listed property needs to install a ramp or something, which is going to change the appearance of their property. And would that be an issue, or would it? And that's so far in the future that I don't think it's something we need to actually have a means to address right now.
Well, it's not a bad idea.
What do you mean?
It's not a bad idea to address it now
Yeah, okay.
and plan for the future. You don't want to make up your rules as you're building the house. You put the plans in place, and then that way.
I guess my only concern is if we're going to have a second type of hardship other than economic, we have to have all the specificity that we do for the economic, and we don't have that here. So perhaps for the time being, I would leave it at economic hardship. If there's a disability issue, which it sounds like, I think that's a really good point to discuss. Like you said, if you have to add a ramp, that's may not be an economic hardship. It may be another type of hardship.
What
But
if it's worded as like ADA compliance or something like that?
Yeah, we could do some sort of a disability hardship to talk about, compliance with ADA or other requirements to accommodate a disability. That might be a way to do it.
I think the term that we use now is ability accessibility. I know it's a PC word. We don't use disability that much anymore.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Oh,
But legal, we haven't caught up yet. Legally, it has to be disability.
Okay, cool.
and I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's not that I believe we need to follow it or anything. But there's been other cases where preservation and historic preservation actually wins out over ADA compliance in a lot of cases. So there is that to consider if we want to follow that.
Yes. In fact, look at the downtown, the post office on South Broadway. And on the National Register, and got that staircase going up the front. And I think they've arranged something around the back for to make it wheelchair accessible. But I have seen people who use a wheelchair sitting out front waiting for somebody to go in and get their mail because they can't get up the stairs. And yet the they say the post office is not or is exempted because it's a national landmark.
And to your point, Lauren, you know, some buildings that are multi-stories that only have staircases, that's not ADA accessible because there's no elevator.
Is
And
there,
it's typically
sorry,
not
is there a difference between like a commercial building being exempt from having to comply with ADA guidelines versus somebody in their home wanting exemption from a historic status, wanting to accommodate themselves?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of too. I agree.
There's like the two different sides of it. So like if somebody's wants to modify their home to accommodate their own disability, I think that's what I was referring, that's what I was talking about.
Yes, and that is very different because if I'm disabled and I want to put a ramp in, that's very different than providing one for the public or being forced to provide one for the public. I think here what you're talking about is I'm applying because I want to put in a ramp because I want to be able to use my home, but so I think that's a very different situation and we could certainly accommodate for that.
Yeah.
I know.
So
Go ahead, please.
oh, sorry. I will add on that point too. Beyond just the disability concerns, the safety issues, I mean, that's a possibility too, where a modification might be necessary. And there's, this is probably too big of a debate to resolve tonight, because I agree that probably more specificity is needed. It needs to be fleshed out a little bit. And preferably I would see if we could copy from some other ordinance that already has this somewhere else, because that's what all good lawyers do, is plagiarize from other sources. I'm an attorney. I'm an attorney, Kendra, so I understand your plight with these things. But safety issues, like if you've got, for instance, some feature of a building that I don't know, in the wintertime it's shaded all the time, and so ice doesn't melt, that creates a slip and fall hazard, and you need a modification based on that. I could see other reasons for the waiver being necessary that wouldn't necessarily be economic and wouldn't just be related to accessibility. So I think it's important to have that in here and worthwhile. For purposes of our discussion with the council, I think it's one of those areas, if it comes up, I don't know that we need to specifically call it out to council, but if it comes up, I think we could say it's an area that we're working on fleshing out, since we're just kind of trying to present at a conceptual level. But because, yeah, I'd just be interested if there's some ordinance somewhere else we could just borrow from versus trying to reinvent this wheel ourselves, because I do think more than just economic and more than just accessibility is worth having in here. I don't have off the top of my head what all the criteria might be, but that's my 2 cents about that little issue.
I think that's a great idea, is to tell council we're looking at what a second type of exemption would be, and it would be related to safety and disability perhaps, but we don't have all those criteria yet, because I agree with you, it's out there somewhere, we just have to find it.
So for now, can we just add the language safety and accessibility exemptions?
Sure, and maybe just with a highlight or something in there saying that the criteria need to be further detailed or
further defined.
So hardship, economic hardship exemptions, safety and accessibility exemptions.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Does that sound right, Melinda?
Yeah. That it's not actually a hardship, it's just another reason for exemption.
Yeah, just another exemption. And it's a good catch-all too, because I don't think somebody has to have like an affirmed disability either to necessarily want more accessibility. So I think it's like right now, keeping it broad is a good idea.
Yep. Well, and you're right, because it could also be a family member or, you know, if they have an elderly parent who comes, there could be a lot of reasons. So I think it's a good idea.
Safety and accessibility is like a good broad term, but I'm wondering if there's anything else. So economic hardship, safety and accessibility. And that seems like to catch a lot.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd like that. And then at the very end, the incentives, I like the idea of adding although I'm not that sure that to be codified.
That's a good
I'm-
point. Yeah, that may be something that the city wants to offer without putting it in the code.
Well, and because there are tax breaks, basically. Let's see. The commercial properties can get the federal rehabilitation tax credit. That's for federal tax.
Not under this though. This wouldn't, our landmarking wouldn't qualify for those, for tax credits, federal or state.
Oh, it wouldn't?
No, you have to be a certified local government to qualify things for state tax credit, and then things have to be listed on the National Register for the federal tax credit.
Are they, well, yeah. Now the state one though, if it's on the National Register, State Register, or of course, designated by a certified local government, and we're not there yet. Although we're moving right along toward being a CLG, we're doing at least the third step. And the fourth step, of course, is getting it out to the community of what's available, and that is where the incentives maybe should be put forward.
Yeah, again, that's easy to take off. That was just, something I put in there because it had been kind of stuff brought up that there was interest from the city and tying some incentives to that. So it doesn't, that was just some language there. So it doesn't have to be there.
Well, maybe you want to
I
put
don't
that.
think we'd make the decisions on that anyway.
Well, I don't know. I think keeping incentives as a basic framework, maybe not at the code, but as a basic framework, I think is a good idea. Oftentimes, historic preservation is an expensive thing to do. So,
Yeah, I was going to suggest putting it in your presentation, but not in the actual ordinance itself. So
Yeah.
that it's brought up and discussed, because I think it's a really good idea. I don't think it would be codified along with what the rest of this would be.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because in fact, it's definitely something we would want, like the Downtown Development Authority to understand about, that there are commercial, for commercial businesses anyhow, there's tax credits and a qualified rehab project. I'm looking at my notes that I had on this that can get 25% of the first 2 million of the purchase price, less the assessed value of the land. The credits roll into and the next year if they don't use them all in that year.
What are you talking about, Melinda?
The Um,
Are you talking about
Colorado's
this?
historic preservation commercial tax credits.
Okay, but you're not talking about the ordinance right now. Can I bring you back?
No, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm talking, so that is, like I say, that is something when we're presenting it to the community or to the council, that they should be aware of. There are
Yeah.
incentives,
But not in this presentation, I don't.
probably not in this one, no.
Okay, thank you. Matt. Let's go ahead and move forward.
Right.
Thank you. Anything else that you found, Melinda?
Those are the biggies. Like say, I mean, I like that, you know, there are several places where it's like simplified, clarified, or, you know, remove redundancies and stuff, and the sort of stuff we would do if we really went through it with a fine tooth comb. So,
Did anybody else catch anything? Thank you, Kendra.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, so probably
Thank
for
you.
the next, should I then sort of accept the edits that I've done, plus make a few extras that we've talked about tonight, like the disability safety exemption, create another version, run a red line against the current ordinance in the code, because I know that's what council's going to want to see, right? That they're going to be focused on what's in the code now and what do you want? And
Right.
then should I send that to who? Eric and Jason for, okay. I see hands raising. Okay, excellent. And then maybe we'll go from there. And when you can meet with council after that, then we can further refine what the ordinance says. Does that work?
Sounds great. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just a heads up, I will need anything that we're going to include in the council packet for the study session. That needs to be to them by Friday at noon. So if you could get those to me by the end of the day on Thursday. That would
This
be-
Friday.
This Friday
Oh my,
Yep.
okay.
Jason,
Okay.
do you have
isn't
time?
we're not meeting with council until the 17th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yep,
they
that's
get.
just how
they get
the
to look at everything.
Yeah, that's just how the stuff is set up. It goes through a big review process, works its way through the channels, and then it gets sent out to council the Wednesday before the meeting, I believe. So it's
Is
like an admin time turnaround from Friday to Wednesday.
Got
Well,
it.
real quick, are we talking about just Kendra's work, or are we talking about the PowerPoint too?
PowerPoint as well.
The PowerPoint as well, yeah.
Is that okay, Jason? I mean, could you send out a draft through Eric to us by Wednesday?
I can do that.
And then we all have to respond by Thursday?
Yeah,
Yes. But
or later
please do
Wednesday.
not please don't reply all.
Thank you.
Please, like if you have suggestions, I would recommend I'll distribute it, but if you have any recommendations, comments, just send them individually to Jason, and then guess you can kind of put him in charge of being the final decision maker on this.
Are you fine with that, Jason, on the PowerPoint part?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is
That's
it
easy.
creativity on your part to make it look?
Well, and we will, I hope, all attend the study session.
So is there a Zoom link, a set time for the study session, a calendar invite, anything like that? Because I know it's
There-
on the 17th, but I don't have anything on my calendar, so I want to get it in there.
Sure, and I think it starts at 6.
When will Nancy will send us out the Zoom link, right?
And yes, you will get an email, a Zoom invite, actually probably from the assistant to the city clerk, name's
Who's that?
Jade.
Jade? Because
Um,
you and Brenton still end up in my junk pile, and I don't know why.
If you haven't received an invite by the Friday before, even like Friday noon before, let me know.
And so
and
should I, no, perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, if you don't hear anything by then, let me know and I'll make sure that you're gonna get an invite.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm putting it in my calendar. Starting at 6, I'm assuming there's other presentations, so should block off, what, 6 to 8 or something like that? We might not be first.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, and that's actually going to be determined tomorrow, I think, is the mayor manager meeting. And that's when they determine all the timeframes and stuff. So after tomorrow, I'll have more information as well. If I find out anything that nails down an actual specific time, I will let you know. I'll send out an email.
Thanks.
You know, the last time we presented to council, we waited for an hour and a half past our scheduled time.
I learned something.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't really want to go one of their midnight sessions, you know.
So have we handled everything on the agenda as you feel, Melinda?
So you were saying what? I couldn't hear you.
Do you feel we've handled everything on the agenda?
I think so. I mean, we're planning, I suppose, as the chair, I will like introduce everybody, and then we'll go to the PowerPoint, and I'll introduce Jason as our expert on this, and then let him go through the PowerPoint, and then we'll all be there to answer questions.
I think field expert, professional, and guidance counselor would be wonderful terms for it.
Covered all.
So, okay, so we want the attachments to be the red line code language, the PowerPoint. Do we want to include the landmark application and process guide draft as reference? Because I think most of council has seen this before, because that's what one of our first study sessions with them was about. But we could, it's up to you. If you want to include it as kind of like a reference point, we can.
We had some changes in council since that presentation.
Yeah.
And I think we should include the application, but not necessarily the process guide, because the process has kind of changed based on our Title 16 changes. So the application, I think, would be helpful.
Okay, so the application.
Good idea, thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
Eric, for bringing it up.
I can send you a PDF of the application draft for an attachment.
And I have that.
You have it, I hope. Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
You have the latest and greatest one, if not, yeah. Okay.
We're done.
All right.
Does everybody want to wear a certain color? Do we want to do anything?
I was thinking about that, like
outfits for
you see, like hats. One hat has an
Historic,
H, one has a P, one has a C. But we can't like arrange ourselves on Zoom, so it would be like CPH. It would be all out of order. I was wondering, you know, a couple times over the last few months, I've kind of like touted the Historic Preservation Commission's combined residency in Inglewood. Now, I don't have a lot of years to contribute, but I'm curious what it really is. I wonder if we could add up our years living in Inglewood as a group. I sit on the library board as well, and how many of those board members are newer and younger. There's some very young families on that group. And I know they don't have the combined residency of this group. And I just wonder if that's something interesting, just to, even if we don't use it in our presentation, but just to be aware of. I feel like it's a big number.
Okay, how about this real fast? Okay, Helena, how many years here?
2.
Lauren, how many years here?
4.
Matt, how many years here?
17.
Melinda, how
Yeah,
many years
up there
here?
I'm
Melinda, how
counting.
many- what? Oh, you're counting. Jason,
Yeah.
how many years here?
3.
Cash.
5, though I am a Colorado native.
That's
Man, that
young.
don't count, sorry. And I'm 26 years,
I think 35.
35.
Melinda, our chair,
Perfect.
she's keeping it
Not always in the same house, but in Inglewood.
in Inglewood. Yeah, Inglewood residency. And would our council member Cuesta, he would be included on that, I think, as well. I wonder what his number is.
I don't think it's very long either, though. Well, I don't have him, so. So we have 92 hours, 92 years.
Almost a century of combined residency in Inglewood. I don't know if
We
that's,
could use that term, huh? Go ahead, Jason, throw it in there.
I don't want to age all of us.
Well, we don't have to say how much some of us have.
Yeah, we don't have to get into the
Right.
details of the distribution, but
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that we have, I bet with Cuesta, we have close to a century of combined residency in the city. I just think
Combined
it speaks
residency
to
and
like,
experience in our
yeah.
city.
Well, I know that working with some of you, your knowledge of Inglewood is encyclopedic. And so I just am wondering what's a good way of kind of putting that out there in a fun way and sharing the kind of the credentials of the group in a way, and like I don't know, just what's the word I'm looking for? Come on, guys, help me out. Not the credentials, but just like the community involvement and just like the anchors of the community, that kind of vibe. Pillars.
Well, I'd like, we're probably all also members of the Historic Preservation Society.
And if not.
The
you should
original,
consider-
say again?
If you're not a member, you should consider.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hop
and
off
in
if you guys
fact,
don't need anything else from
The
me.
originally,
Sounds great, Kendra.
like
Melinda,
had to be
Kendra's
2
gonna head
members
out.
that were recommended by.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
Kendra.
Kendra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Kendra.
Are we done, Melinda?
I think we're done, yeah.
No move to.
We're not doing, that was staff's choice, right?
This is an emergency meeting. We're not
Or the commissioner's choice.
we're not doing anything else right now. We're just doing the meeting.
Right, and Jason will, or will get the PowerPoint distributed or put together, and thank you, Jason, for being the serving as the point person on the whole project here.
Hey, I'm curious with that whole logo thing. Are we allowed to use our logo that we came up with?
I haven't got an update on that yet, but we could use that logo right now. So I haven't actually heard back from Chris yet on that, but
Send it to Jason because it's probably going to be changed, right? I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like
we might as well use what we have now.
that's what I think. Let's hurry up and use it. So send it to Jason.
Why would the city want us to change our logo?
Oh, that was
remember-
a discussion this last.
That's a whole nother discussion. That's communication that Inglewood, Eric told us about them wanting to do something.
Yeah.
I need to go over there and slap them around a bit, I guess.
There's a point of order. This is being recorded, so you know.
Yes.
In a loving way.
Verbally slap them around.
Love slaps.
I move that we close the meeting, our emergency meeting, whatever we call this.
I'll
crisis
second
meeting.
that.
All right, everybody have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
All in favor, say
Bye-bye.
bye.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys. Meeting adjourned at
Thanks, Eric.
7:42. Yeah, thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, Jason.
Have
See
a good
ya.
night, guys.
Bye.